Hello everyone, I hope you're safe and well. This is a Premier Injuries Daily Update as we look ahead to game week 18. Now, it is the 17th of December, Friday, just before 4 p.m. So this is the news as it stands. But given the current landscape with COVID, this can change hour by hour. So keep following. And if you don't subscribe, please do, because once we drop a new video, you will be updated straight away. And we do have lots of content coming out, particularly at this time of year. Going to kick things off at Aston Villa. We have heard from Steven Gerrard. Marvelous Nakamba has successfully underwent knee surgery. Now, that could keep the midfielder out for up to 4 months. However, Gerrard said that if rehab does go well, then potentially that extended period on the sidelines could be cut down to 3 months. Other questionables within the Aston Villa camp ahead of this weekend. Ashley Young is rated as 50-50, and Emi Buendia is also managing an ongoing foot problem. Now, that's not thought to be too serious. However, he keeps on getting kicked in the same place, and that was the reason for his forced withdrawal the other night. But elsewhere, the Villa camp is pretty much the same. Their opponents at the weekend on Saturday is Burnley. Sean Dyche, pretty much a clean bill of health. The main talking point is in and around will Maxwell Cornet be fit. Dyche had said ahead of the Watford game that if he missed that match, then he would be included for the weekend. However, he has changed his tone ever so slightly, and he's went back to saying that he's touch and go. I'm actually reading between the lines here on that one, saying that it's probably going to be too soon for Maxwell Cornet, and I do have Matai Vidra or Rodriguez, who will play up alongside Chris Wood. Another fixture to go ahead this weekend is Leeds against Arsenal. Now, Leeds, they're struggling massively. Of course, they're coming off the back of that 7-0 drubbing by Manchester City. So confidence is low. And to compound matters even further, they lost another 2 players to injury and another player to suspension during that defeat. Firpo picked up his 5th caution of the campaign, ruling him out for the next match. We also seen Dan James pick up a muscle problem, and Jamie Shackleton with an ongoing Achilles issue that's going to keep them out. So that's going to mean a big reshuffle. Of course, we've got none of those players who are currently sidelined. The Bamfords, the Coopards, the Calvin Phillips, none of those players are due back. So the Marcelo Bielsa squad is beginning to look pretty stretched. Their opponents on the day, Arsenal, again looking pretty good. Now, we did hear from Mikel Arteta on Friday morning, and he spoke about the need to maybe assess 1 or 2 players ahead of that game. Gabriel Martinelli looked in a little bit discomfort after he was forced off against West Ham. So he's one potential doubt. Emile Smith-Rowe came on in his place and scored, so that could be a like-for-like swap. Will we see Arteta change things up? I'm not sure. That left-back spot with Kieran Tierney, is he in a position to maybe start 3 games? Tavares could come in, but elsewhere we're not really aware of any sort of further issues with regards to that. Now, elsewhere, where's the other games coming from? We have Wolves versus Chelsea. We'll start with Chelsea first. We've had a mixed update from Thomas Tuchel. Now, we know prior to the game with Everton that Romelu Lukaku, Timo Werner, Callum Hudson-Odoi and Ben Chilwell all tested positive for COVID. Kai Havertz was absent from the squad on Thursday evening. He had submitted a negative lateral flow test, but as a precaution, Tuchel kept him out of the squad, and we've had the result of his PCR test. Now, fortunately, that came back negative, so Kai Havertz has returned to the matchday squad. He is in contention, and I do expect him to lead that Chelsea lineup on Sunday. Now, other big question marks lie in midfield. Ruben Loftus-Cheek, he's picked up an injury during that draw with Everton. Big question marks over him. And we do know that Jorginho is managing an ongoing back problem that's hampering him in recent times. Now, the player has come out and he's always vowed to play through the pain barrier and put his body on the line. But the decision ultimately will lie with Thomas Tuchel. Now, we did see Angola Kante back in the matchday squad on Thursday, although he wasn't, he didn't get involved. There was no sort of game time for him. And Mateo Kovacic returned and rejoined the group on Friday. However, following an extended absence due to a hamstring problem and then a subsequent COVID test, he won't be in a position in terms of his match fitness. But again, that will come down to the fitness of some other players. Now, Reece James is an option in that centre park, as we have seen maybe in the Champions League. Cesar Azpilicueta could start there. Or Saul, he hasn't had much of a look in or much luck since his arrival, but he could be one again that's deployed centrally. For Wolves, again, we do know there's a couple of definite absences here. We're expecting Marcal to start on the left-hand side of midfield. Aït-Nouri was forced off prior to the game after complaining of a warm-up last time, complaining of a adductor problem in the warm-up with groin-related issue, so that kept him out. And then Hee-Chan, he was forced off during the open exchanges after pulling up with a hamstring issue. Thankfully, Raul Jimenez is back after his suspension, and that'll be a like-for-like swap. No other big changes in the camp. We do know that Yerson Mosquera and Fabio Silva, potentially both tested positive for COVID. And I say potentially, and it's something that I do get thrown at us quite a lot. You're either positive or you're not. Well, with regards to the lateral flow test, because of their, they don't give you, because of a lack of accuracy, let's just say, clubs will not give a definitive answer, whether it's a positive or negative, until they've had the results of the PCR. So we're waiting on Mosquera and Fabio Silva with regards to that. Newcastle, they're playing Manchester City. What we do know about Newcastle, they lost Jamal Lewis at left back. Again, that was a hamstring problem at Anfield. It could be Matt Ritchie who comes into the side as his replacement. There's also question marks over the fitness of Alan Saint-Maximin. Now, he was on the receiving end of a pretty heavy challenge just before he's replaced. And Eddie Howe said after the game, when talking to the press, he hadn't had the opportunity to speak to Saint-Maximin to see whether it was that knock from the tackle or whether it was a muscle-related problem. Now, so that's one to watch, although, of course, Newcastle are playing City, and even though we do have this massively reduced slate, I don't think their assets will be attracting a great deal of attention. On Friday, Pep Guardiola's waiting for the results of his PCR test. He wasn't able to attend Friday's press conference, so we haven't had any kind of definitive updates from the club. We do know that Bernardo Silva was forced off on Tuesday evening. Pep stressed at the time that it wasn't injury per se. He was merely complaining of a little bit muscular discomfort. However, given the high number of minutes and starts that he's had and the personnel that Pep has now at his disposal following the return of, say, Grealish and Foden, Gundogan's managing an ongoing problem, I could see Bernardo Silva being benched in this one. João Cancelo, he's back after serving his ban midweek. And finally, Tottenham Hotspur. Antonio Conte spoke about the possibility of Sergio Reguilon being involved. He's been training individually, but he will rejoin the group on Saturday ahead of the game, and a decision on his fitness will be made at that point. There was no mention of those players who've been in and around or away from the squad after testing positive for COVID. What I would say is, in the build-up to this game, are they going to be in a position to start? And if they are, how many minutes could they actually complete? Heavily disrupted. So that includes the likes of Lucas Moura, Heung-min Son, Oliver Skip is one of those sort of unconfirmed, Emerson Royale, all of those players. So whether they're going to be ready, I'm just not certain. Antonio Conte had said ahead of Thursday night that he was probably looking at around about 20 minutes for those players. But obviously that game was called off. They've had additional time on the trainer pitches, so it remains to be seen. So big question marks over some of their big stars. And for Liverpool, Jurgen Klopp, we heard from him on Friday. He was another manager that said, it's highly likely that Virgil van Dijk, Curtis Jones, and also Fabinho have tested positive for COVID, but they're waiting for confirmation from those PCR tests, so that we wait and see on that one. We're working on the premise that, those lateral flow tests were accurate and they will be out. So Kante will come in. Possibilities for changing the side up that face Newcastle. James Milner would be one of those, with maybe Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain. We know historically that he doesn't do fairly well with games in quick succession, given his history of injuries. And Roberto Firmino was also in that matchday squad, although I would fully expect Diogo Jota to start alongside Sadio Mane and Mo Salah. So that's it for now, your Ben 10 Friday roundup. As it stands, I stress, if there are any more breaking and latest news, we will pop them in a video if it's worthy. If not, follow the timeline, or you could always check out premierinjuries.com in the injury table. It is updated all day, every day with the latest news. But good luck, everyone. Stay safe, and we see you again very soon.